Tasma Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Okay, so I had a few things to present today, but I thought I might just start with a little a recap on an overview of the Bhagavad Gita in the sense of what are the main things that the Bhagavad Gita actually, the main topics that it talks about, that Krishna speaks about, and there's five main broad areas of subjects. Ishvara, or the Supreme. Who is the Supreme? Is there a Supreme? What is the nature of the Supreme? So there are quite a few chapters. There's chapter 15 is the Yoga of the Supreme, which specifically deals with that, with the nature of the person who is the controller and creator of everything. So there's that one topic is dealt with. The other topic is the jiva, the actual living entity, what his role is, the difference between the living being and the body is dealt with quite deeply in chapter 2. Lots of explanations about the living being, what his role is, what his duties are, things like that. Then it deals also with the material nature, the actual world we live in, and the modes of nature that govern this world and everything in it, and how they affect with the interactions with the living beings, how it affects them. So that's that's all dealt with. And then the last two aspects are karma, action, and the results of action. And then time is the last aspect that the Bhagavad Gita will.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
So yeah, so those five things: the Supreme, the living being, the karma, and time, and the material nature. Thank you. Those things are dealt with, and that pretty much covers everything. That pretty much covers every aspect of life. I mean, there's not really anything outside of that. Really, very well.
Small gathering.
Small gathering, yeah. We're just
You
trying
got
to,
Indian independence, so everybody's over in
we're having our own Independence Day here. Independent of independent, trying to be independent of our mind and senses. Not that easy.
No. It's impossible.
Yeah, that's a very big subject.
That's actually,
That getting independence from the senses.
so yeah, so that pretty much covers every aspect of life that we could conceive of. The Supreme, who is the Supreme, who is the living being, what is the material nature, what is action and the results of action, and what is time. So this is why the Bhagavad Gita is considered, greatest, deepest philosophical knowledge available. And because it's spoken directly by the Supreme Lord, then it's authoritative. There are so many philosophies and philosophers, but unless they're actually coming from the Vedas, they're either completely speculative about someone's idea, or else they're empiric, that they're trying to ascertain the truth from existing knowledge, material knowledge about the situation. So then they ascertain from that it must be like this. And so really, if we're looking for the truth, to actually understand why we're here and what we're meant to be doing, then we can't get better information than the Bhagavad Gita. And it's a book that you can obviously read again and again and again. I got home the other night and my daughter had drawn a picture of a banyan tree with the roots up and had the leaves with the Vedas and the, I can't even remember it now, but the leaves with the Vedas, it's some other thing. And anyway, she'd been reading, with Vanessa in the morning from the 10th chapter, Universal Form, something about the banyan tree. And, then she went and got it and she read it to me. And I mean, I've read it so many times, but I don't remember reading that about the banyan tree. I mean, I've obviously have at some stage, but I don't recall the detail that was in the Bhagavad Gita. So it just pointed out that you can go over it many, many, many times.
Yes.
And of course, because it's a living being, and it's Krishna himself, then obviously as your consciousness changes and as your life progresses, the truths are revealed, at different degrees. It's not like a mundane book where it's always the same. There's always, Krishna is finding ways to, and Prabhupada and Guru is finding ways to help us in our spiritual life. And there's so many examples of people that have just open up a Gita at random and they've just found just the verse which is applicable for them at that time.
Yes.
So Krishna is speaking to them like that. Something that I've been thinking about the last few days regarding Janmashtami coming up, and thinking that actually how rare it is, I think I might have spoken about it last week, but how rare it is that Krishna has appeared on this particular planet. And then I did a kind of a thought, well, how many planets are there to choose from, right? So I did a Google search, and apparently the modern day astronomers, speculators, have ascertained that in the Milky Way there is something like 100,000 million stars.
Wow.
Okay, and each one of those stars has planets. The star we have, the sun, has 9 planets. Some other stars have many more planets. So there's 100,000 million stars just in the Milky Way. And they have speculated also that there's one with 24 noughts after it. That's how many stars they estimate there are in the known universe. I don't know how they get their figure, but that's what they've... So to give some understanding of that figure, they said that if you counted all the grains of sand, you guys have already heard all this, if you counted all the grains of sand in all the beaches in the world, then that wouldn't equal that figure. I wouldn't see that. So that's how many stars there are,
Wow.
and then each one of those stars there's so many planets. So Krishna, out of all, and that's just one universe, and there's innumerable universes. But even within our universe, he chose to come to this particular planet only 5,000 years ago. So it's a very, very special thing. And so anyway, we heard something about that in the class I was listening to today. That actually, when he comes to this planet, he doesn't leave Goloka either. He's manifest. He's manifest. It's the whole Goloka is here at that time wherever he goes, and it's the same. We heard the same, that when he's a baby, he's not subject to time like we are. Like we age. He doesn't age, but it seems like he ages. So the class I heard today was explaining that he actually, like the 1 month old Krishna manifests and then disappears, and then the 1 month and 1 day Krishna appears, manifests, the 2 month Krishna manifests, the 3 month Krishna manifests, the 1 year Krishna manifests, the 3 year, the 5 year, the 16 year. So it's not like he's aging, he's not subjected to time, but he's manifesting and unmanifesting in such a way that it seems like that. Yeah, so these are all, Krishna says, one who understands my transcendental appearance does not have to take birth again, but many people do become confused about Krishna's birth. How can he's unborn? How can he be born? He's beyond the mode. So how can he get older? So many things like that which can be bewildering. But we're fortunate in some ways that we don't. For the Western devotees, many of them, we don't have any prior knowledge. So we are given what Prabhupada, the Acharyas have given us, and we accept it. So we're not conditioned by any previous cultural or, many of those with Indian bodies, they have grown up with Krishna, so they understand to some degree about it, but they've also grown up with a religion or a cultural aspect of it. And they may see Krishna as being a incarnation of Vishnu, or something like that, which Prabhupada's very clear that that's not the truth. So so with Janmashtami coming up in just under 3 weeks, it's a great opportunity for us to actually think about our relationship with Krishna, what it means, what we have been given, whatever understanding we have of Krishna and Krishna consciousness. We do know that it's relationship based, the philosophy, the relationship we have with Krishna, the relationship we have with the holy name. This is an opportunity for us to actually serve and show Krishna how much we love him and what we want to do for him. So we're all caught up with so many things of the material world, but ultimately it's a priority. What we do with our time is an indication of where our mind is at, and especially what we do with our spare time. It's always a good test if you have 10 minutes to 15 minutes spare, what do? Do you scroll? Do you sleep? Do you eat? It's sort of a good indication of where our mind is at, is what we do with our spare time, and also what do we do when there's no one else around. It's always another test. So, for someone who's understood how important it is that we become Krishna conscious, and we try and follow the instructions of the acharyas to be, absorbed in remembering Krishna, his name, his qualities, his pastimes, his form, at all times is the idea. And then your consciousness, if you're actually remembering Krishna and thinking about him or chanting his names at all times, then your consciousness becomes transformed, and it's non-different from being in the spiritual world, even while you're in your material physical body. If you're actually absorbed in Krishna's, remembering Krishna at all times, then you're actually not living in this world anymore. So when we get 10 minutes, 15 minutes, then we can chant, we can remember the pastimes, and if we're hearing the philosophy or reading the philosophy, then we've got something to think about as well. And if we're chanting, you find the more you chant, the more you find yourself chanting subconsciously, even to the point where you can wake up chanting. You're chanting in your mind. I've experienced that a long time ago, but I have experienced it where you're actually, you're so much absorbed in chanting all the time that it travels over to your subconscious also. So when you have that degree of absorption in Krishna, then there's no room for Maya, there's no room for mundane, and then perspectives and priorities are in the proper perspective. Priorities are in the proper perspective, because without being absorbed in Krishna, without actually endeavouring to remember Krishna as much as possible, then Maya quickly finds that gap, finds that hole, and before you know it, your priorities become different. Your main concern is so many things. There's 1,000 different things to get distracted with in this world, and this is the job of Maya, to test. To go to the spiritual world, you must have, the only desire you can have is to have a desire to please and serve Krishna and Radha. And so if you have so Maya will test you to make sure that no living entities can enter the spiritual world if they have any material desires. So, yeah, it's an important thing. Krishna consciousness is the most important thing in our life. And not many take it seriously, and that is the potency of Kali and the potency of Maya in this day and age, that the importance of spiritual life is not considered a priority, or if it is, it's mixed with so many, it becomes the churches are still quite popular, they still get many people going to church, but the depth of commitment, or the reality of trying not just on a Sunday, but at all times trying to remember and serve God. That understanding isn't really cultivated so much. In previous ages it was, in previous ages that was what people understood. This is what life's about. We have a body and it's a temporary body, and as a human being with a great opportunity to actually perfect our lives and get out of this cycle of birth and death, which is just another name for non-stop suffering. Really. It really is. So, as Bob Marley said, so much trouble in the world. So much trouble in the world. In our own lives, in our own bodies, in our friends' lives. They say that the material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. So in the spiritual world there's an unlimited varieties of bliss, ecstasy. And in the material world there's an unlimited variety of miseries. And we're forever, if we're not careful, we prioritize trying to arrange to minimize or to put out the miseries, to put out the fires. We spend all our time, oh God, I'm suffering because I don't have enough money. I need more money to stop my suffering. I'm suffering because I don't, my relationship is bad. I need to spend more time working on my relationship. I'm suffering because my health is like this, so I need to, take these supplements to help my health. I'm suffering this, and then you spend all your time trying to fix all the, and then this. Oh yeah, I've got my health's good now, but now this is happening, and now my car's broken down. I haven't. So there's all the time. Whereas the Acharyas and the Vedas say, this world is a place of suffering. You're not going to stop it. It's like you're not getting. It's a place of disease. So don't be surprised if you get sick, or if you have ill health. This is the place we're living in. You can't jump in a pool and then complain that it's wet. It's like you're here, so better to make a plan to actually put an end to it. This is what the Vedas and the Acharyas are recommending, and they've given us how to do it. They've given us 9 processes of devotional service. They've given us the holy names that are freely available at any time, in any place, in any circumstance. They've given us a tongue to chant them with. They've given us ears to hear them. And if we don't utilise the gifts that we're given and the opportunities that we're given, then we've got no one to blame but ourselves. Death will come, and at the time of death, if we're thinking, oh, I've wasted my time, I spent so much of my tongue spent so much time talking about other things when it could have been talking about Krishna. I spent so much time eating things that weren't offered to Krishna. I spent so much time hearing things that had no relation to Krishna. I've wasted my time. It's not going to help having some regret. It may help, you to be more inspired in the next life, but it's not going to. On a daily basis, it's up to us to be diligent, because old age comes pretty quick. Yeah, and then it's so weird. When you're young, you just think you've got so much time and so much energy, but it goes really quick. It's really quick. So many of our friends are all getting sick and passing away, and one stage you're getting invited to 21sts, Next thing you're getting invited to weddings. next thing it's funerals. So yeah. So anyway, this John Mustamy really is a opportunity for us to actually, as much as we can to do something for Krishna. Celebrate the amazing fact that he came here and performed his pastimes with all his entourage, Mother Yashoda, Nanda Maharaj, all the gopis. They all came here to this tiny little insignificant planet. So we should be very grateful and appreciative, and we can show our gratitude and appreciation by worshipping him nicely and telling other, encouraging other people to also to realize that the Supreme Lord is real, and he's kind, and he's loving, and he's wanting reciprocation and relationship with everybody. So I will read this verse quickly and then ask us any questions or comments, and then we'll move on. So we were talking just before a little bit about how Real Independence Day is to be free from the modes, free from the dictations of the mind and senses, and to be actually Prabhupada described the regulative principles as the regulative principles of freedom. So no illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling, no meat eating. These are all restrictions, but he called them principles of freedom. So that is independence, because by accepting those restrictions, then it opens up a world of independence and freedom, because it's the start of developing, humility and acceptance of authority. Everybody's reluctant to accept authority because we've been cheated so many times by authorities. But of course Krishna is not going to cheat us. If he was going to cheat us, he would have done it a long time ago. He's not going to cheat us now. So if we accept his teachings and the teachings of Guru, and sincerely try and follow them. Before I read the verses, one other thing I would like to share, and that's something about sadhana bhakti. Sadhana bhakti is the principles of following the instructions of Guru, and following the instructions with a regulated program. And when you're living in a temple, some of us have lived in temples, it's a lot easier to follow, to get up early, to follow the morning program, to chant a fixed number of rounds, and to do service. And your whole day is actually absorbed in service and things related to Krishna. And it becomes quite easy in many ways. But outside of the temple, you have to be self-motivated, and it's a little more difficult. But one thing that I have realised recently is how important it is to. Obviously, it's important to chant Hare Krishna, and it's important to follow the principles. But the chanting of the Maha Mantra, it's how important it is that there is a fixed number of rounds that you do, because for a period, I've had periods in my life, in my personal, devotional life, where I've been very strict and chanted in many rounds every day, fixed number. But there's also been periods when I haven't chanted at all for a period, and I've recently had a period where I've been chanting every day, but not a fixed number, and it was been variable, sometimes 4, sometimes 8, sometimes 2, sometimes 16, sometimes 10. It was just all over the show. So, so now I've realised that you really need to have a fixed number, because then it becomes a rut, it becomes a commitment, it becomes a relationship based, that you have decided, yes, Krishna, I will chant this number of rounds or these number of names for you every day, not just when I feel like it, or so that was been a recent realization that it's important, whatever that number is, whether it's 2 or 4 or 6 or 8 or 16 or 32 or 64 or 120, whatever it is, it's important. It's important to make that commitment every day. Okay. Okay, so I'll just read this verse. This is from the 6th chapter. We opened up the discussion today to say that there was 5 main topics of Bhagavad Gita. Can you remember what they are?
One is time.
One
is time.
Time.
Living entity.
The living entity.
Supreme Lord.
The Supreme Lord. That's 3. Time, the Supreme Lord, living entity. Karma, action and reaction. And material world, material energy. Those 5 things are basically the topics of Bhagavad Gita, and there's pretty much nothing outside of that you can think of. It pretty much covers everything. The Supreme Lord, the living entity, material nature, action and reaction, and time. So, in previous ages, as we know, the process for self-realization was meditation. So this is, Arjuna was speaking to Krishna this is at the end of the Dwapara Yuga, before Kali Yuga had started. So in those days, people had much more strength, spiritual and material strength, but they also were able to meditate and to do much more austerities than they are now. So anyway, Arjuna says, text 33, Yoyam yogas tvaya prokta samyena madhusudana itasyaham na pashyami chanchalat vat stitim stiram. Arjuna said, O Madhusudan, the system of yoga which you have summarized appears impractical and unendurable to me, for the mind is restless and unsteady. Text 34, for the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong, O Krishna, and to subdue it seems to be more difficult than controlling the wind. Purport, the mind is so strong and obstinate that it sometimes overcomes the intelligence, although the mind is supposed to be subservient to the intelligence. For a man in the practical world who has to fight so many opposing elements, it is certainly very difficult to control the mind. Artificially, one may establish a mental equilibrium toward both friend and enemy, but ultimately no worldly man can do so, for this is more difficult than controlling the raging wind. In the Vedic literatures it is said, Atmanam ratinam vidi saridam ratam evacha. Buddhintu saratam vidi mana pragraham evacha. Indriyani hayanahur vishayam teshu gocharam. Atmendriya mano yukto boket yahur manishina. The individual is the passenger in the car of the material body, and the intelligence is the driver. Mind is the driving instrument, and the senses are the horses. The self is thus the enjoyer or sufferer in the association of the mind and senses. So it is understood by great thinkers. Intelligence is supposed to direct the mind. So in this example, the intelligence is the driver and the mind is the driving instrument. So the intelligence is meant to direct the mind. But the mind is so strong and obstinate that it often overcomes even one's own intelligence. Such a strong mind is supposed to be controlled by the practice of yoga, but such practice is never practical for a worldly person like Arjuna. And what can we say of modern man? The simile used here is appropriate. One cannot capture the blowing wind, and it is even more difficult to capture the turbulent mind. So what is the solution? The easiest way to control the mind, as suggested by Lord Chaitanya, is chanting Hare Krishna, the great mantra for deliverance, in all humility. The method prescribed is Saivai Mana Krishna Parabandaya. One must engage one's mind fully in Krishna. Only then will there remain no other engagements to agitate the mind. So if your mind is agitated, you cannot have any peace. No peace at all, because we all have experienced it. When the mind is disturbed, if we're angry, if we're upset, if we're unfulfilled in any way, the mind will not give any peace. It's stated that the mind, that the self, the self is the enjoyer or sufferer in the association of the mind and senses. So the mind and senses are providing input, and the self is accepting those things and enjoying or suffering accordingly. But we also know that the enjoyment and the suffering is temporary, so even if we're enjoying, it doesn't last. So the mind is something that we have to deal with. We all have to deal with it, and so we can keep battling with it, or we either have to try and defeat it, or we have to surrender to it. Is the other option. The mind says do this, and we go okay, and when mind says do that, and we say okay. So that's one option, but that doesn't help, because the mind is really only interested in sense enjoyment. So the intelligence, we have to be able to recognize the voice, the internal voice coming from the intelligence, and the voice from the mind. An example may be a box of chocolates. The mind says, "Oh, chocolate, I like that, I want one." The intelligence is like, "Well, you already had 5. You probably better not to have one, you might get sick." But the mind is, "Yeah, but I want one." And so the intelligence has to defeat the mind. And if the intelligence isn't strong, then you will just have another chocolate, and you will have another chocolate. You see it all the time with children. Their minds are very strong.
Like me. Next one, and I want to have another one, and
Yeah.
another one. And
That's right. So mind and senses work closely together, and really the mind is really only interested in enjoyment. It will reject anything, any austerity. Come on now, sit down for 10 minutes and chant. Oh no, I've got so many things to do, I can't do that now. That's the mind. So much resistance to austerity, resistance to anything which isn't going to give immediate pleasure. But the intelligence, you have to look for that voice which knows, well, what is best for me in the long term, not the Shreyas is short term, right? Shreyas and prayas. So Shreyas is short term benefit. Senses and mind want immediate gratification. The tongue especially wants now. You can't say, yes, you can have it in 3 days' time. It's always, you've got something to say. That's the other aspect of the tongue. Wants to say something, speak something, but you can't say to the tongue, oh yeah, do that next week. It has to be, it's immediate. The intelligence is more interested in long-term benefit. So you have to be able to distinguish and hear the voice, what's best for me in the long term. And then when the mind creates all sorts of arguments as to why you shouldn't do that, you have to be able to you have to be able to defeat it, or else just tell it to shut up and don't listen to it. Acharyas have given examples of beating the mind in the morning and beating the mind at night.
That's tough.
Yeah, because they recognise how destructive it can be, for your spiritual life if you allow yourself to listen to it, unless it's telling you. It can be your best friend also. It can be your worst enemy or your best friend. So if it's telling you things which are of benefit for you in your relationship with Krishna, then yeah, you can listen, and it becomes your friend then. So then Krishna does reply and says, O Almighty Son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by constant practice and by detachment. So those two things. Constant practice, not just practice, constant practice. The difficulty of controlling the obstinate mind, as expressed by Arjuna, is accepted by the personality of Godhead. But at the same time, it suggests that by practice and detachment it is possible. So what is that practice? In the present age, no one can observe strict rules and regulations, such as placing oneself in a sacred place, focusing the mind on the super soul, restraining the senses of the mind, observing celibacy, remaining alone, etc. By the practice of Krishna consciousness, however, one engages in 9 types of devotional service to the Lord. The first and foremost of such devotional engagements is hearing about Krishna. This is a very powerful transcendental method for purging the mind of all misgivings. So hearing about Krishna and chanting Krishna, and basically you're engaging the mind. And the more you do that, those are the things that you think about. And so the more you think about those things, about Krishna's pastimes, his form, his nature, his holy name, then it creates a snowball effect. And then your mind and your mental is engaged properly. And this can even be going on while you're at work. Your mind can still be engaged in thinking of the philosophy of Krishna and the pastimes of Krishna. If you're not thinking about Krishna or things related to Krishna, then you'll be thinking about material things. And that snowballs as well. So it's a science. But we have all opportunity here. Everything we need, Krishna has given us. So yeah, so it's 3 weeks to John Musterman, and yeah, if anybody wants to have some idea of what they would like to do to help in any way, and to offer something to Krishna, I'm sure he will be very happy to reciprocate. Alright, so anyone have any questions, comments, corrections?
That's one of the symptoms of someone that's on the verge of experienced bhava. They don't like to waste time, and he was talking about that today, and there's a few things that characterises those people, but one of them is they don't like to waste time, which is exactly what you've been talking about.
Yeah, time is,
It's easy to waste,
it is.
yeah. And the mind is involved in all that.
It is. Yeah. Yeah.
We're living in a temple, or living in the association of like-minded people who are practicing is the secret to success in spiritual life, because you just get, if you're living with people that are doing what you do, then it's much easier. You know, so living in a temple where everything's there and you just basically just go to the program, go to the show.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all set up. It's all set up for a life of engagement and remembrance. So you just fall into the lifestyle, and you're already fulfilling all the. Apparently, I heard that in that class also. Welcome. I heard in that class we listened to before that in the Hari Bhakti Vilas there's even details on how you should offer obeisances, so that when you go to, if Lord Yamaraj comes for you and you say, well, you didn't offer your obeisances, you say, well, I did, because it says in Hari Bhakti Vilas that this and this and this. So the way we've been, when you, it says that you must, your feet, your knees, your chest and your palms must be on the ground, and your mind must be thinking of the Supreme Lord. So just the way that, even though we don't know all the scriptural references to all these things, we do it automatically. When you offer your obeisances, you're already fulfilling all those things. And there's so many scriptural injunctions, but when you actually, for those that have had the opportunity to actually live in a temple, there's so many scriptural instructions that we don't know about, but we're actually automatically fulfilling them, because rising early, attending program, paying obeisances, circumambulating Tulsi, blah 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 blah. There's thousands of things that we're doing as just part of our regular day, but without that temple structure, we have to make a conscious effort to do these things ourselves. Any other questions, comments? Okay, so we'll have Arati and then we'll have some prasad. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.